In 2007, the BlackBerry was not just a phone, it was a badge of competence, a symbol of speed, discipline, and executive power. If you were important, you had a BlackBerry in your hand. At its peak, BlackBerry controlled roughly 50% of the US smartphone market. It looked untouchable, permanent, like a corporate empire built in steel. Then on January 9th, 2007, Steve Jobs walked onto a stage in San Francisco, and the world changed. Not immediately, not obviously, but irreversibly. Inside BlackBerry's headquarters, the reaction was not fear. It was dismissal. To them, the iPhone looked like an expensive toy. Bad battery life, no physical keyboard, no serious enterprise value, just a shiny screen for consumers. But here is the truth. BlackBerry did not lose because Apple made a better phone on day one. BlackBerry lost because it failed to understand that the phone was no longer a communication tool. It was becoming a pocket computer. BlackBerry's moat was real. The physical QWERTY keyboard gave professionals unmatched typing speed and tactile certainty, and its data compression infrastructure made email fast, secure, and reliable, even on weak mobile networks. For corporate IT departments, this combination was nearly unbeatable. But BlackBerry's greatest strength became its intellectual prison. RIM believed mobile networks would remain constrained. So they built for efficiency, compress the data, reduce the load, protect battery life. Apple made the opposite. Bet that networks would improve fast, enough to support a richer, fuller, more human experience. This browser comparison tells the whole story. BlackBerry saw the phone as a tool for compressed information. Apple saw it as a window into the internet. One company asked, how do we preserve efficiency? The other asked, how do we unlock desire? Once the iPhone began gaining momentum, BlackBerry did what many dominant incumbents do under pressure. It rushed out an imitation. That device was the BlackBerry Storm, and it was panic-cast in hardware. Its most infamous feature was the SurePress screen, a clickable touchscreen designed to mimic the feel of physical keys. On paper, clever. In reality, confusing, inconsistent, and deeply frustrating. Return rates soared. For a company known for indestructible reliability, this was more than a bad launch. It was a reputational fracture. Underneath the hardware failure was a deeper engineering problem, technical debt. Instead of rebuilding the foundation, RIM kept patching an old system, a Java-based OS designed for an older era, and tried to force it to power a modern touchscreen device. When the foundation is wrong, every new feature becomes slower, uglier, and more fragile. BlackBerry's leadership still believed the battle was about the handset. Apple understood that the handset was only the entry point. Mike Lazaridis built a phone. Steve Jobs built a platform. That difference, invisible at first, became everything. Once developers began building for iPhone, the value of the device no longer came from what Apple shipped in the box. It came from what millions of users could add afterward. Every new app made the phone more useful. Every new user attracted more developers. Every new developer made the ecosystem harder to leave. That is the power of network effects. BlackBerry kept BBM locked inside its own walls. That decision protected device sales in the short term. In the long term, it was catastrophic, because the market was moving toward open, cross-platform ecosystems. WhatsApp did not care what phone you owned. BlackBerry was defending a fortress. Apple and Android were building cities. When industries shift, companies need clarity. BlackBerry had complexity. RIM was run by two CEOs, one focused on engineering, one on sales. In stable times, this looked like balance. In a crisis, it became paralysis. A company facing existential change needs one coherent answer to one brutal question. What business are we actually in now? BlackBerry never answered that fast enough. And while leadership debated, the data was already clear. Consumers wanted larger screens, touch devices, video apps, and media. The smartphone was no longer an email terminal. It was the center of personal computing. By the early 2010s, the collapse was no longer theoretical. It was visible in the numbers. Market share evaporated. Developer interest dried up. Consumer attention disappeared. The brand that once defined the smartphone era had become an Afterthought inside the very category it helped invent. Eventually, BlackBerry did what many fallen hardware giants are forced to do. It exited the battlefield it could no longer win. The company pivoted towards software, enterprise security, and automotive systems through QNX. The pivot was rational, maybe even necessary, but it came after the Central War had already been lost. Clayton Christensen's theory of disruptive innovation explains it perfectly. Market leaders are often destroyed, not by a superior product at first, but by a new technology they initially dismiss as inferior. That was the iPhone in 2007. Not obviously better at BlackBerry's game, but playing a completely different game. BlackBerry was not stupid. Its leaders were not lazy. Its technology was not trivial. That is what makes the story so important. BlackBerry was a victim of its own success, exceptionally good at serving the needs of one era, and blinded by that excellence to what the next era would demand. It mastered the problems of 2005 and underestimated the desires of 2010. This is how giants fall, not always through incompetence, but through overcommitment to the logic that once made them dominant. Any company that mistakes current customer loyalty for future market control. Any leader who confuses optimization with vision. Any leader who confuses optimization with vision. Any giant that believes the next wave will have to play by the old rules. It never does. So here is the real question. Which tech giant today is making the exact same mistake BlackBerry made? If you enjoy deep breakdowns of corporate failure, innovation strategy, and market collapse, subscribe to the channel. And tell me in the comments, do you still miss the BlackBerry keyboard? Or has touchscreen won forever? And if you want to complete the mobile disaster trilogy, our video on Nokia's fall is next.